see. What do you think about sexuality and its role in our lives and spirituality? Additionally, what do you think about promiscuity? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts about this. Okay, so the question seems to be about sexuality and the spiritual path. So first, what do you think about sexuality and its role in our lives and spirituality? I don't really think about it that much. I look at any natural drive as a natural drive. For example, we have a drive to eat for a reason. We have a drive to sleep for a reason. We have a drive towards procreation for a reason. So I don't consider sexuality to be anything more than just a natural drive that we have as a human being. When it comes to sexuality and spirituality, I don't see any difficulty there either, unless there is some kind of psychological issue with your sexuality. And a lot of people have that. So that's something to keep in mind. Sex itself is not a problem, but if you are obsessive and compulsive about it, if you have some strange, aberrant behavior about it or harmful behavior about it, well, that's not just harmful to you spiritually speaking, that's just harmful living as a natural human being. Many people have probably observed the difficulties that religious organizations have experienced because of forced celibacy and all these kinds of things. I guess my opinion would be, if you are in a consenting, loving relationship and you can appreciate each other in that way, that's no different than any other kind of healthy expression of love and intimacy. I also sometimes think that that's better, to be able to be in a healthy relationship in that regard. If you can't be in a relationship, and many people have difficulty with relationships, and as you know, having been a Vedic astrologer, what do you think one of the most common questions I get asked is, when am I going to find my soulmate? Who knows when you're going to find your soulmate? Most of the time, I think that our lives are set up in such a way that they give us the exact opportunities we need to grow spiritually speaking. That's been my experience. So, for example, if a person is not in a relationship and they're not able to be in a relationship and they've not had the opportunity to be in a relationship, well, does it make sense to remain stuck in a loop of just constantly trying to find the relationship, make a relationship happen, forcing it? Or would it make sense to step back and say, all right, for whatever reason, the wisdom of the universe has made it such that I now have all this free time, this alone time, this time to focus on other things. So sometimes when there are things that we want in our lives and they don't show up, maybe that's because it's not appropriate for us right now. Maybe we're supposed to be focusing on other things or doing other things. But anyway, going back to the idea of sexuality, I don't really think that that's a problem unless you have some kind of obsession or compulsion around it. I don't think celibacy is necessarily the best thing in the world, because what happens when people force themselves to be celibate? Well, they force themselves to sit there in meditation. They force themselves to try to be a monk or a nun or so on. And all they're really doing is spending the next 50 years trying to ignore their sexual urges. Versus, let's say they do have the opportunity to be in a healthy, loving relationship where they can explore sexuality. Well, then they can enjoy sex for maybe 20 minutes to an hour, depending on, how vigorous you are, I suppose. But then you've got the next 24 hours or maybe the next several days not think about it at all, because you've engaged the process. And so it's not in your mind anymore. It's just like anything else. When you start to deny yourself anything, from an obsessive compulsive standpoint, what do you end up doing? You just end up spending the rest of your life focused on that which you're not getting deep in your mind. But if you would just go and eat that piece of pizza, well, you don't think about it for the next 7 days until you want pizza again. So I really, what it comes down to is just having a healthy sex life is fine for everybody, um, if it's available to you. And if it's not, well, then that's something you work through. Now, as far as promiscuity, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all. And nor do I think polyamory or polygamy or any of these things or cheating on your spouse. I don't think those are helpful or useful at all. I don't care how you try to rationalize it or bring up ideas that human beings aren't meant to be monogamous and so on. You can rationalize everything, and maybe that's true if you're just an animal. Animals do that too. We have cats everywhere. One time I was looking out the window and I saw a cat up uh, on the roof of my garage. And what happens? Another weird cat came out of nowhere, and there they were doing it right in front of me, right on top of my garage. And then I looked down the field, and some more cats are doing it. So cats, of course, animals are meant to be however they're meant to be. But as human beings, especially human beings that are on an awakening path, this might be where the idea of celibacy came from. Um, we're meant to be pulling our awareness inward into source and spirit, and recognizing that we are fulfilled through spirit and source. That's what we're meant to do. And so if you are actively promiscuous or cheating on people or just having sex with everybody, you are certainly not managing your life force very well. And so this is why having a healthy monogamous loving relationship, if it's available to you, is very helpful. Um, Also, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that when you are intimate with someone, you share their field. And this is true, not just, it's very true when it comes to sexuality, but it's also true in regards to friendships and the people that you spend a lot of time with. Um, I forget who it was. There was a student of Ramana Maharshi's, and there was a group of people, and Ramana Maharshi told the student, he said, "Stay away from them." He says, "You'll just pick up on all their vasanas if you get involved in that group dynamic." And this is one thing that I think that we don't often consider, is that the people that we become involved with, we get caught up in their karmas, we get caught up in their vasanas, because they are a field, we are a field, and when those fields merge, things tend to get shared. This is why even in Vedic astrology, when it comes to like who are you going to marry, who are you going to spend a lot of time with, one of the benefits of doing an astrological compatibility isn't just to see, are you going to have the same sleeping schedule, are you going to have the same motives, and so on. It's really a question of, do you really want to bring those karmas together? Do you really want to, what this person's experience is and what this person's experience is, do you really want to have those coalesce and resonate together? And if you're caught up in soulmates and these romantic versions of love, you don't want to hear that, because you just want to be with who you want to be with. But if you're able to step back and look at things from a more intelligent perspective, it is important to recognize that when you come together in groups of people or with friendships or with anyone, and really, that karma's energies kind of come together. And so that's why you might experience things that you wouldn't otherwise experience. And this is especially true when it comes to sexuality. You are getting up in each other's chakra system very much. And so that's why in these older traditions, they say you are kind of cleaved to your partner. You become one with your partner. That means you end up sharing the energetic experience that the partner shares. And if you are a strong, clear yogi, well, you can share your experience with anyone, because what's happening there is your light, your awareness, your clarity is then radiating into these other fields. But if you're not yet a strong, clear yogi who can really pull that off, anytime you move into fields with other people, you are being influenced by them. Sexuality is no different. And again, the story that I've noticed this often. There was one woman that that I was playing in a musical group with. And I didn't like spending a whole lot of time with her because I didn't want to get caught up in her energies. And I am a very good driver. Um, I think I was in a wreck once when I was a teenager, but that was because someone rear-ended me in a stoplight. I wasn't even moving. So it wasn't me doing something dumb. The light hadn't even turned green yet. However, every time this woman got in the car with me, I was always almost in an accident. almost always in an accident. And she had her car totaled multiple times. So this is an example of how, even though I'm a good driver, luckily my not being in a wreck karma was strong enough that it overpowered hers, but still I almost got in an accident multiple times. And so I didn't ride with this person anymore. And I think it's very important for us to really pay attention to these things. I mean, just this might not be true for many of you because most of you seem like fairly well put together people, and that's good. But just pay attention sometimes when you look at someone's life, how they repeatedly experience certain things. And then when you get around them, somehow you almost get pulled into that too. Why is that? Because there is a sharing of like an energy field or an energy system. Even beliefs are shared. You know, being around certain people who believe a certain way, you will in time start to kind of look at the world in that way too. And if you're not strong enough and it's not useful for you, it can be a setback on your path. That's one of the reasons why it's not a good idea to jump around from one spiritual teacher to another spiritual teacher, from one group to another group. You need to find the teacher, the group, if you want a group, that is as clear and direct as possible, and stick with that. You know, Sri Kishwar talks about that in the Holy Science. He talks about once you find the divine personage who represents truth, that by being with them, essentially by being in their field, by sharing a field with them, you also come to know what they know. And this is not just, as I mentioned, applicable to spiritual mentors. This is applicable to everyone who is around you. And that's why we have to be very aware of how we feel around certain people. We have to trust our gut. We have to observe the lives of the people that we give our attention to and really ask ourselves, do we want to get ourselves engaged in that? Do we want to engage that kind of energy? And it's not to be judgmental. It's not to say that their life is wrong or bad. It's just to admit that's not what I need to wake up. That's not what I need to feel clarity, and say, I'm just not doing it. If they want to come to you and participate with you as you sit to meditate, or as you go and make a vegetarian meal or something, that's different. They're choosing to resonate with your field. So as far as sexuality goes, no, don't be promiscuous. Don't cheat on your spouses. If you've got some weird ideas about sexuality, or you're constantly obsessed with it, or you've got porn addictions, and these are all things that all kinds of people have. So it's just a state of consciousness, no judgment there. Work it out, and try to find a healthy expression of love in your life. That's the best thing to do. All right, so that's the question that's been sent to me. I'm going to scroll down through the chat. And those of you who showed up a little bit later, you know, as you know.